Chosen one, welcome, remarkable ones. You didn't come this far just to blend in, and you know it. What lives inside you has been making waves long before you even understood it yourself. That's why you felt resistance. That's why doors slammed and eyes followed you. Not because you're weak, but because you're powerful in ways this world isn't ready to handle. You are not here to play it safe. You are not here to fit their scripts. You are here to shift things, to break what needed breaking, and build what they said could never exist. And yes, they noticed. They watched. They whispered. But they also underestimated. What you carry cannot be stolen, cannot be silenced, and cannot be bought. And because of that, you're not walking through life alone. Heaven made sure of it. You don't need to beg for protection. You don't need to prove your worth. You already have what it takes. And what guards you now was assigned long before anyone tried to count you out. So stand tall. Let them stare. Let them wonder how you're still standing. You are not fragile. You are fire with a mission. You are a force they can't predict and a story they can't erase. You are rare, unstoppable, and fully backed by something far greater than anything trying to stop you. You don't just survive, you shift atmospheres. You don't just endure, you inspire. You don't just walk in rooms, you change them. And today, you rise. Not because they let you, but because nothing could stop you. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. There has never been anything inconspicuous about this life, though many pretend not to see it. What looked like retreat was never fear. It was a deliberate positioning, a deliberate silence, as if hands unseen were shielding the edges of a precious flame. Not everyone draws eyes from every direction at once, but when the very ground trembles at what is about to be revealed, even unseen forces have to shift their ranks. Entire atmospheres react to your quiet. Entire schemes unravel at your recovery, and entire rooms fall into disarray when you choose joy again. This isn't suspicion. It's the way the invisible world responds to someone who disturbs its architecture. And for those who disrupt not only people but whole patterns, walking alone has never really been an option. There is no such thing as ordinary written into your story. You move through this existence like a classified document, every page marked with invisible seals. The way you endure storms that others cannot even name, the wisdom you carry as if it was planted there before you could speak, the way you emerge unbroken. These are not accidents. What resides in you rattles ancient foundations, not because of spectacle, but because of quiet precision. People are unsettled in your presence, drawn without knowing why, repelled without understanding their own discomfort. None of it is random. There are layers within you that were never meant for the common gaze. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. When the door opens and you enter, something unspoken begins to shift. It isn't volume that changes the temperature of the air, but something woven into the way you simply are. Unscripted conversations falter, eyes dart without knowing where to settle, and even laughter starts to sound brittle. This isn't awkwardness. It's the resistance of hidden agendas meeting their end. What you carry neutralizes pretense, tears through rehearsed facades, and startles the masks that once fit so perfectly. Without speaking, you disrupt the illusions others cling to, simply by existing within reach. Their unease is not about manners or mood. It is about what you quietly awaken in them. Even before words are spoken, your presence has already read the room, discerned what was meant to be concealed, and left nothing untouched. Carrying this kind of presence is not a role chosen or rehearsed. It arrives uninvited and unavoidable. It is as though every step leaves behind a reflection too sharp to ignore, and yet no intention exists to expose anyone at all. Still, the quiet truth woven into this being unsettles those who see themselves more clearly than they wish to. That unease explains why unseen protection surrounds from every side, like watchtowers rising overnight. There was never a plan to disrupt illusions, never a desire to press against the walls others build, but something within refuses to shrink into false comfort. Without trying, motives are illuminated, disguises crumble, and performances falter under the weight of being seen. The sudden discomfort others feel is not born of hostility, but of knowing they've been recognized beyond their surface, beyond the layers they carefully crafted to remain unnoticed. And that recognition alone demands protection few can understand, Feel God's love stirring within you? Don't let it stop there. Hit the super thank you button and sow a seed of $20 or more. That simple act can ignite hope, heal hearts, and carry His love further than you imagine. You were made to shine His light. This is your moment. Be the miracle someone's been praying for. Let heaven move through you. Observed by eyes that do not blink, this journey has been anything but invisible. Even those who pretend curiosity often watch with other intentions, tracing every detail, measuring words, recording actions as if cataloging some mystery they cannot solve. What they fail to grasp is that their scrutiny never goes unnoticed. There is a higher vigilance that watches them as they watch. Those who press too close find themselves caught in their own traps, as if every hidden attempt to manipulate or imitate is quietly written down elsewhere. Even kindness sometimes arrives sharpened, masked as care while carrying quiet sabotage. Yet every maneuver is accounted for, every false gesture weighed. What appears to be unguarded is a deliberate stillness. What seems naive is a tactic. There is a constant presence overseeing the story, ensuring that each misstep by others only reveals more of themselves. The more carefully someone tries to orchestrate harm, the more they uncover their own weakness. What seemed like control was never theirs to begin with. Every misdeed only documents them further. What surrounds here is not only defense, it is a ledger being written as they act. Some lives move like harmless echoes, but this one was shaped as a fault line, quiet until it shifts and shakes everything built on fragile ground. Without needing recognition or applause, its very existence threatens the designs of those invested in silence, control, and illusion. It does not merely glow. It carries a rhythm, a hidden sequence capable of waking dormant hearts and shaking old patterns apart. That possibility terrifies those who depend on others staying asleep. When truth rises visibly, it creates ripples, showing others what's possible, breaking the silence, freeing those trapped in fear. For those who profit from shadows, that kind of freedom is unacceptable. That is why resistance often comes unprovoked, why hostility arrives from unexpected places, why certain people drain the spirit without clear reason. Their aim is to dilute, to distract before others notice the strength that's there. What moves within this life is contagious. If left to flourish, it sparks change beyond itself. The weight of it is too costly to collapse, and too precious to leave unguarded. The more the story unfolds, the clearer it becomes. This is not just one life, but a map others will follow. And maps must be preserved for the sake of every path they will one day reveal. Carrying a sacred weight comes with signals others often ignore until it's too late. Subtle nudges, strange feelings, quiet alarms. Warnings always arrive before damage is done, yet many dismiss them. There are those who experience unease in your direction, a sense of resistance inside their own mind, fleeting moments when they second-guess the harm they intend. Some feel chills at the thought of crossing a boundary. Some lose sleep wrestling with thoughts they can't name. Others hear whispers of caution they can't quite silence. Yet they override those signals, believing charm or cleverness can bypass what they don't understand. They fail to recognize what stands before them because it wears humility and kindness instead of spectacle. But there's no vacancy here for violation. The ground has already been claimed. The unseen forces stationed nearby are not influenced by emotion or revenge. They move because balance demands it. When someone forces their will against what was already sealed, consequences unfold without intervention. No retaliation is necessary. The very moment the line is crossed, their own path fractures, momentum falters, confidence wavers, influence thins like smoke. This is not vengeance dressed as justice. It is the natural backlash of misalignment. Every offense against what is sacred leaves a mark on the offender, even when forgiveness flows freely. The warnings were never suggestions but instructions, and disregarding them sets in motion a fall that cannot be argued with. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. What dwells inside is not simply endurance, but testimony forged from encounters most would never survive intact. This path has passed through unseen corridors no map could guide, and endured weights that would have erased another soul entirely. What resides here carries a strange gravity. Even silence bends the atmosphere, not because of mystery, but because of everything it has already witnessed. These scars are not theoretical. They were earned in unlit places where faith alone was not enough to explain survival. Betrayals arrived not as accidents, but as calculated strikes meant to dismantle everything from inside. Dreams became battlegrounds, and waking life was no less vivid, no less sharp. Tensions in rooms whispered louder than words. Shadows and smiles revealed their true shape. Periods of isolation became the quiet ground where strength was reassembled. None of this is a test to be passed. It is a mark carved by something deeper. This kind of knowing cannot be learned in books or borrowed through titles. It is etched through experience and recognized by those who see beyond appearances. There is a reason protection surrounds so tightly, not because fragility needs shelter, but because the insight carried within shatters illusions that others depend on. This is why certain voices tremble when truth is spoken. Why unspoken knowledge unnerves those hiding behind roles. Misunderstanding comes not from error, but from reaching into frequencies few are equipped to comprehend. The evidence born here does not just tell a story. It stands as proof that destruction is not inevitable, that intervention is real, that freedom is possible. And that kind of proof unsettles every structure built on false power. Those who understand why the guard never lowers already know. What has been endured here must remain intact, because its very existence dismantles deception wherever it is revealed. Feel God's love stirring within you? Don't let it stop there. Hit the super thank you button and sow a seed of $20 or more. That simple act can ignite hope, heal hearts, and carry His love further than you imagine. You were made to shine His light. This is your moment. Be the miracle someone's been praying for. Let heaven move through you. Some lives are built with safeguards others don't notice until they collide with them. When missteps against this path happen, whispers behind closed doors, selfish interference, subtle attempts to distort or drain, it's never without advance notice. There are always quiet signs, an uneasy feeling clinging to the decision, nights of restless thought, or unshakable heaviness before they cross the line. But many ignore these signals, convinced their charm, cunning, or intent can overpower boundaries they do not understand. They assume patience means permission, and humility means weakness. What surrounds this journey, however, does not answer to ego. The protection here is not personal, it is structural. It exists to defend what cannot afford to be dismantled. Anyone stepping beyond what is allowed does not simply offend. They tear into something already vowed elsewhere. The resulting collapse in their own world may seem random to them. Opportunities drying up, relationships unraveling, momentum stalling. But these are not coincidences. Retaliation is not required. Silence is enough. What feels like bad luck to them is simply the inevitable recoil of disrupting what was never theirs to touch. No energy needs to strike back. Their own choice carries the consequence. The agreement protecting this life is not casual, not fragile, not negotiable. It stands because it must. And those who treat it like a suggestion discover, too late, how high the cost truly runs. What moves through this existence cannot be reduced to survival alone. It is a witness to realms few dare enter. This journey has endured storms no words can adequately describe, traveled through emptiness that would have undone almost anyone else, and returned carrying truths too heavy for casual conversation. What fills the room here is not mystery. It's memory of things seen and endured that others only imagine. There is a weight in the silence, because that silence holds everything survived. Betrayals that felt deliberate, moments when the ground seemed to vanish, countless nights navigating invisible battles. Encounters came in dream and daylight alike, sharp enough to leave marks nobody else could see. The air itself sometimes spoke in warning, and the isolation that others mistook for failure became the forge where resilience hardened into something unbreakable. This strength was not borrowed, it was earned. And because of that, it unnerves those who depend on illusion. The very presence of this life is a challenge to the facades others cling to. Speaking out loud shakes walls they thought permanent. Discernment disarms their careful acts. What others misunderstand as oddness is simply a frequency they cannot tune into. The protection woven around this path is not coddling. It is preservation of evidence that light cuts through darkness, that endurance is possible, that victory is more than theory. That proof alone disrupts systems built on pretense, which is why it must remain whole. Those who truly see understand the necessity of the shield. What has been carried here holds the power to expose and undo what many would rather keep hidden. What exists here does not announce itself with spectacle or noise, yet its influence can silence a room without lifting a finger. Power like this does not rely on admiration or performance because it operates from legitimacy, not display. Its strength is cultivated in obscurity, where victories are counted with no applause and battles are fought with no audience. Its authority is written into places most never see. The weight of this name carries formal standing in ways that charisma never could. It does not merely speak into the air. It issues orders that creation itself responds to. This is not charm. This is jurisdiction. Words spoken here do not float. They are anchored by something far older and far more binding than ego. There is a quiet confidence that unsettles, a prayer that shakes walls, a presence that governs the unseen without theatrics. What is carried here is more than lived experience. It is the ability to enact what has already been settled elsewhere. Declarations do not emerge as hopeful wishes, but as decisions carrying enforcement. When boundaries are drawn here, they hold. When release is spoken, it arrives. When cycles are broken, they collapse. Nothing here is performative. What lives in this life has been examined, tested, ratified, and now safeguarded. Those who misunderstand its silence as passivity overlook its reach. Every word counts. Every movement ripples. The authority embedded here was not negotiated. It was assigned, proven, sealed. And because of that, what emerges from this mouth cannot be left unprotected. There are always those who attempt to erase what they cannot control, some directly, others in shadows. Efforts are made to sideline, diminish, or discredit this path, sometimes subtly through whispers and quiet sabotage, other times as brazen strikes. These moves rarely target appearances alone. They aim deeper, toward the purpose itself. Yet every scheme activates defenses they neither see nor understand. The moment harm is planned, unseen forces pivot, rerouting what looks like misfortune into hidden shelter. Doors shut that would have harmed. Delays interrupt what would have derailed. Conversations cease mid-plot. Contracts dissolve before damage is done. And the attackers, though confident at first, find themselves tangled in outcomes they cannot explain. Relationships strain. Influence wanes. Vitality fades. What they cannot connect is that their undoing began the moment they trespassed. Not out of revenge, but because alignment demands correction. Protection is not just a shield here. It elevates as needed, strengthening around the one carrying the weight. The path remains intact not by chance, but because vigilance intercepts what is never visible to the untrained eye. No explanation is needed because survival speaks loudly enough. What was designed to crush instead becomes the very pressure that reveals resilience. The attempt to dismantle this life becomes the evidence that elevates it, and what was intended as an ending becomes the stage for ascent. There is a quiet brilliance at work here, one that others keep trying to imitate, mock, or hijack without ever touching its essence. All around, people adopt fragments of what they think they see. Gestures, language, presence. They take pieces and parade them as if they have captured the whole. Yet there's never a sense of real danger in their mimicry. Somewhere deep inside, it's already understood. They are chasing shadows. What is authentic remains wrapped, unbothered, invisible to those with shallow eyes. While they launch their envy and suspicion at imitations, the true work continues untouched, covered by something far more deliberate than obscurity. This existence has been shielded in full view, positioned where everyone believes they see everything, yet they cannot reach what matters. While others aim their bitterness at lookalikes, the real foundation is built in silence. This invisibility is not rejection, it is preservation. The feeling of being sidelined or underestimated was never abandonment. It was strategy, protecting you from premature exposure. Time moves differently here, layers of protection shifting with quiet precision until the moment arrives. Now those false fronts begin to fall. Those who impersonated or opposed discover they were striking empty air all along. The atmosphere clears, and what was concealed begins to emerge, not rushed, not diminished, but aligned and fully formed. Piece by piece, This unveiling follows a timetable no human hand could dictate. Impact, not approval, was always the point. And now, step by step, the unveiling begins. There has never been anything accidental about this path. Every detour, every sudden ending, every inexplicable delay has been part of an intricate design. What surrounds this life is not metaphorical. It is precise and deliberate. Purpose and timing are secured within a framework no outsider can tamper with. It is not simply about defense, but about orchestration. At moments, choices may feel like mistakes, opportunities like losses, but each apparent failure was a quiet interception, blocking traps disguised as blessings, removing hands that would have broken what is being built. Those intent on disrupting have never been able to predict the next move, no matter how much they observe, imitate, or insert themselves. This path does not move according to their timelines, because it does not answer to them. Here, nothing is random. What seems like a setback often holds the seed of acceleration. What looks like hesitation is often an unseen advance. The steps are not dictated by pressure, but by a higher calculation. Protection doesn't just defend, it repositions, confuses the opposition, and transforms obstacles into preparation. This journey is encoded, encrypted in ways that defy expectation. Even missteps are woven back into the rhythm of the greater plan. Those who watch closely mistake patience for vulnerability, but what they fail to see is that the foundation is sealed. Every outcome here is predetermined not by luck or cleverness, but by an agreement they can neither read nor break. It remains untouchable, not because it hides, but because it was written in a language they were never meant to understand. There's a kind of presence that refuses to bend no matter how tempting the offer, and that defiance does not go unnoticed. In a world where compromise is currency and loyalty is often auctioned, this kind of integrity creates tension wherever it shows up. There's no price high enough to make it betray itself, and no fear sharp enough to make it retreat. That's why attention lingers, why movements are tracked. Offers arrive dressed as blessings, smooth words, golden doors, admiration wearing the mask of opportunity. But behind them sit expectations to dilute, to bow, to stay quiet. And every time those invitations are turned away, something unsettles in the atmosphere. Those refusals ripple far beyond the moment. These are not just rejected gifts. They are entire schemes dismantled before they take root. Resistance here does not arise from stubbornness, but from an inner compass that cannot be rewritten. When neither bribes nor threats work, curiosity turns to observation. Patterns are noted, circles studied, actions analyzed for cracks that never appear. Waiting for exhaustion, waiting for weariness to take hold, but it never does. What protects this path is not just defiance, but discernment, an instinct to recognize when admiration hides an agenda. That refusal to bend becomes more dangerous than any sword. Those assigned to shield and know their task is not merely guarding from attack, but insulating from subtle contamination. This kind of loyalty to self terrifies systems built on control because it cannot be purchased or persuaded. The more they watch, the more they realize nothing they offer will ever own it. There's a silence here that unsettles precisely because it is not empty. They mistake it for passivity, for hesitation, but in truth it is the most deliberate act in the room. The quiet gathers what noise cannot hear. It observes long enough to see beyond words and catches what others try to bury beneath rehearsed performances. Silence collects stories no one knows are being written down. Every pause is a ledger. Every withheld response is an opening for the truth to emerge on its own. While others fill the air with defense and denial, this quiet stands firm, knowing time has a way of uncovering what force cannot. Restraint here is not surrender, it is strategy. Letting people display who they are without interruption gives the evidence more weight than accusation ever could. The quietness disorients those who thrive on chaos because it denies them the reaction they crave. What appears inactive is simply waiting until the right moment, when enough is seen and enough is known for the next move to be undeniable. Silence sets the stage, without lifting a hand. Those who underestimate it find themselves ensnared by their own noise. What seems passive is a mechanism gathering clarity, identifying who belongs and who does not, tracking the invisible motives behind every smile and every gesture. It is not about proving anything anymore. This kind of quiet comes from someone who already knows their worth and no longer bargains for understanding. By the time the silence ends, every decision is backed by something undeniable. What follows is not vengeance, but alignment, a restoration so precise it feels preordained. The quiet was never weakness. It was the preparation of a storm no one saw coming. There is nothing accidental about the way each pause, each quiet resistance, each unseen triumph has unfolded. It is all part of a far greater architecture. This path has never been forgotten or left to chance. It has been protected deliberately, held out of reach from forces that could never comprehend its magnitude. What rests here is too catalytic, too potent to leave unguarded. The ones assigned to shield this journey do more than deflect harm. They witness, intervene, and uphold laws that stretch beyond human understanding. Strength here does not shout because it does not need to. Its authority is written in places where fear holds no sway. This life is not random. It is a map, a contract, and a promise incarnate. Any who approach carelessly find themselves entangled in consequences too deep to explain. Stillness in these moments is not hesitation, but a kind of divine surveillance at work. What may look like delays or detours are, in fact, precise encryptions, shielding the next chapters from premature exposure and unseen ambushes. This has nothing to do with fragility. It is proof of unbreakable resolve and a sacred responsibility carried forward. Each step not only fulfills its own destiny, but clears a path others will one day walk. The barrier surrounding this life is not optional. It is deliberate, unwavering, and fierce. Let this remain clear. You are not only observed, but fiercely defended. What has been set in motion cannot be reversed.